Good morning, everyone. Before we get into this morning's update, I would like to touch base on what I see transpiring across the crypto market. We can see right now a lot of red. We've got some slight green here. We've got XRP up about 3.7%. XLM is pretty flat right now, but we do have some pattern formations that are set up to where we could be optimistic, but also understand that if these break down, these could be the start to a longer correction. From where we hit this support structure, I was looking at XRP possibly retesting all the way up towards 76-cent area. Almost like we were in some kind of rising wedge, maybe. But we'd be looking to come up for a resistance here at about 75.94 if this plays out true. If we lose 69 cents here, next target would be around 66. You lose 66, then 63.60, then 59.50 roughly. So we'll see if we continue to be hot here today on XRP. On XLM, a similar setup has appeared. Now, just like both of them, they're not really... It's not that they're not breaking up and coming back to that resistance. It's just after some noticeable movement, we've kind of gotten flat here. I would definitely monitor your risk here and understand what's going on. This is basically how we're set up here for XLM. It's been very hard to diagnose it exactly because we came up through a region, hit the resistance, hit another resistance up here now. So I feel pretty comfortable having it somewhat like that. So XLM's in a battle as well, just like XRP. If they fall down below these formations, we've got a pretty nice correction. However, Bitcoin, which I did have a small trade last night that did okay. But now it's a point of looking at it because it's breaking out of this consolidation. And it was on an inverse head and shoulders, as we talked about yesterday, broke up. Now we're back testing the breakout. If this holds the technical target, first target was 92,199, which it hit. And now the ultimate target from here, and let's get rid of this because it's already broke through that. And back testing now. Now the actual target, if it breaks up here and it does this properly, let's go from right here. It's pretty similar to where I had it. It might be a tad bit higher. But the target for Bitcoin would be 95,677. So we'll look at these numbers. We'll look to see the potential here and then what happens if this fails to materialize. It does seem quite ominous today, but again, we haven't had much corrections. We've had some dump downs. We had about, there's been a little bit of a correction here. We've popped up a little bit for XRP, tiny bit for XLM as it's part any losses from yesterday, but now we need to see if there's any potential for carryover or continuation, I should say. We'll take a look at where the liquidations are at on Bitcoin on the heat signature map. And then we'll also take a deep look at XRP to see what kind of liquidations we've had, volume, open interest, rated funding rates, and good stuff like that. A lot of numbers here to share, a lot of details. So I'll make sure that you leave here this morning with a lot more information than when you came in. And then if you could just do me the solace of hitting that like button so YouTube does recommend this update, I would greatly appreciate it. If YouTube recommends this update, I can be recommended. And that means I get put on the YouTube newsfeed. And then whether or not you've seen my content or not, you'll be able to make an educated and informed decision whether or not you want to watch it. So, good morning. 7:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Thursday, November 14th, 2024. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So I don't have much exposure right now. I have a little bit of exposure on XLM. I'm not talking about my spot trades with like XRP, XRPH, and XLM and things like that from long ago. I'm talking about particularly leverage trades. I have a small exposure of about a $40 risk on XLM to see if this pattern plays out. If it doesn't, it's like a $40 loss, and I have it at 11.9 cents. I wanted to see if this will play out, but right now, the way it's looking, we could be on a reversal candle here. So I'm minimizing my risk here big time. Instead of going 10x, I only went 5x. And it was only a minimal risk here. So if I'm feeling confident, I always go 10x. I'm not feeling that confident. I like to play these formations when they look like they could fall out. Because if it holds it, which it's speculative at best, but if it holds this to come back to another resistance, you're looking at, and I like to play these potentials. That would be on a 5x trade, that's about a 40% move for XLM. But on the flip side, a drop down here out of this formation, you will get the opposite reaction here, and it's starting to lean towards this way. It's really starting to lean towards this way. If it were to break down here, then you would obviously get that carryover. And if it drops, you'd be going down to about 10.9 cents. So obviously having that stop loss at 11.9 cents is for a reason. I wanted to give it enough room so it wouldn't stop me out if the pattern was going to keep going. But, you know, that's the way it goes. So that's my exposure there. But it could very easily go down to 10.9 cents, and I can acknowledge that. It's more of a play because Bitcoin right now is on the top side of what could be a short-term breakout here up to 95,677 as long as it plays true. So that definitely leads into the decision. Looking at the fact that it's a Thursday right now and we're getting closer to the end of the week. I mean, XLM too has had a big reversal. It had a nice correction. So did XRP for that matter. We'll look at both. I had a few comments saying that I wasn't as transparent with XLM, which I started to realize I am not. I haven't been doing as many updates, so I'm going to have to add XLM into the routine. But it was down about, from the top down to that swing low, it dropped about 15%. So that was a healthy pullback. That's the other reason why I'm like, I'll gain a little exposure here. XRP from the top came down about 14.4%. So they both corrected about 15%. They both corrected about 15%. So they're doing what I think they need to do as far as corrective mode. And now it's kind of a sit back and a wait approach. I did have a little trade with Doge yesterday, which did me very well. I made like $130 overnight. I was afraid to keep it open once it hit 40.2 cents, so I closed it, even though it's still in this structure. And I believe that Doge, if it holds this, it'll pop back up here to about 42.8 cents. It's just, we could say these are kind of like, you know, rising. It's not a channel, but it's so, you can't really, one could argue maybe it's a bull flag, but you could also say maybe they're forming rising wedges. I don't know. It's early to tell, but I'm trying to go across the market so everybody can see. But I am pressed for time because we got to get my son to school at 9:30 or 8:20. We got to leave here. So that's what I wanted to show with a couple other charts. I know I showed you XRP, what it could be forming, and it looks like it's forming. And if that's the case, XLM's behind XRP right now by a few percent. But, you know, these are very dangerous. Like, the time to go, you know, big long here was prior to the 40-45% run-ups. You know, as far as from a leverage standpoint. Now you're trying to get those consolidatory moves. Spot trading, this isn't exactly the right spot to open those positions either. I always talk about XRP sub 40, and then some people get mad, but we did have our chance just a few months ago. If you hadn't got in, I added to my position at 38. And there's positioning where I'm willing to buy XRP and add to my positioning. This is certainly not it. From a leverage standpoint, you could certainly take a risk, but if you were going to take that risk, you would have wanted it to be more by that uptrending support, and you would have wanted to be part of this move from when it touched down at 68.60. So I mean, if you're going by that logic, XLM hasn't moved as much, but still, these are very dangerous times here. If we were to fall through, I noticed my short uploaded at like, I don't know, an hour and a half ago when I released it yesterday, so that just shows you how shadow banned I am on YouTube. I thought the video was posted, but it never showed up until like, I don't know, 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. So it's interesting, but at least it's there so you can see if it breaks down what the fear is. But that's only if we lose 66 cents. And then obviously if we lose 63, then there would be the touch to 59, which is the old breakout level. But that can only happen if we lose the rising channel support at 66. Then you'd go back to the cup and handle breakout point. It would be your next major resistance. No, 61 and then 59.5 with this consolidatory pattern. But I would like to see it to break up to 75 today. I would love to see it break to 75. We've had a few hits on support here now for XRP. Not much on resistance, only 2 hits generally you would like to see. A little bit more, yeah, the 2 hour. But if we pull this into more of a daily perspective, you can see there's only been 2 hits there. So, and then the breakdown, I have the other uptrend that technically you got the uptrend underneath. If this breaks down for XRP, let's just so we can get a little bit of a target either way. So we'll look at it if it breaks out or breaks down. Yeah, so on a breakdown, that gets us right down to 59.44. So that's interesting at best. So if it would get us right down to that consolidatory zone. Whoops. But now if it breaks up, 86. So it's basically telling us it's either 86 or 59. That's so weird. At least from right here, 86 or 59. So we'll see. It looks like we got a little bit of upward momentum here as long as we stay out of this formation from dropping down. But we're starting to carry back up to the top side of this formation. So we'll see. But it is the morning time, so this is where it's going to get very, very finicky. So let's take a look real quick before I release this on XRP. If we look at the liquidations, it's been interesting. We had a... And long liquidations, we had 10.5 million yesterday. Or on the 12th. Yesterday we had 1.35 million long, 1.4 million short liquidated. But that 15 million that got 2-to-1 that got liquidated longs on the 12th, that could be playing good for us if we're trying to play back up. That's a lot of liquidations, but we're kind of in no man's land right now because we're in a, I don't want to say it's a rising wedge, but the way the pattern's rising, we got to break out pretty quickly so that we don't get beaten down. The volume right now, we are at a little bit of an increase in volume here today. We had 13 billion in volume on the 12th. A little hard to hit the 13th though. Yeah, it's very hard to hit the 13th. I don't know why it does that. That makes it super difficult to hit way out there. But the 13th, we had 8.5 billion. That was a pretty big differential. Open interest right now. A lot of open interest. Wow. That's a lot of open interest. So that's good. Let's see if we can take a look. See if we can see where we can see some on the heat liquidation map before I leave real quick for Bitcoin. Let's take this out into the 1 week. I think the 1 week would give us a very nice basis here for cost basis. Yesterday we seen we had a lot of liquidity over the top, which we came and got. So it's just going to take a second. All right, so over the underneath, we got some liquidation zones. Let's just put it into the daily. Because we know we've got strong liquidation if we have a big dive. But I want to see if there's any left to garner above. And then after this, I'll release this video so that you guys can get this. And I got to get myself out the door. But yeah, see, this is what I was looking for. To see if there's any liquidation zones over the top. So we have a technical target around 95K if this breaks out. Conveniently enough, that's right where the strong liquidations are. Let's go into the 3-day. Maybe it'll make it easier for me to consolidate the zone. But there's a lot of liquidation just over the top of us here again. These are all short traders. I always talk about how it's very dangerous to short when you're in a bullish push, like a bull market in a sense, because Bitcoin is absolutely in its biggest bull market in a long time. So I mean, there's 200 million in each of these sections from 93,000. Let's see. From 93,450, every like $50 to $100 you go up, there's 200 million in liquidation. So there is liquidation to be found here. There's absolute liquidation if we go to the 12-hour chart, which is probably best. Because it does look like we're bull flagging here and a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders. But this one doesn't look as profound as the last one we've seen. But it definitely, if it could hold this area. See, I mean, there's some liquidation above. Some liquidation below. But there's nothing, let's go to the 2 week. There's nothing crazy right now. Nothing crazy like just within reach. I dare say that above liquidity is in danger again if you're going short. But we've come so far up that there's not as much. The only over-the-top liquidity now is the short traders. Now you're going to get these golden pockets where you can get a lot more liquidity if we come down to 85. If we come down, we're coming down to at least 83. I don't know if we'll come all the way to like 74, but I could see us come down into this liquidity zone. It's just, we've got to rotate this pattern if we're going to come down. But like I said, this morning, the risk is much greater than it has been the last couple days. I would probably stay out of leverage. I have one position to see if it'll play out. It's a $40 exposure. Not the end of the world. I made 3 times that on Doge overnight. So I'm not really too worried about it. But if it rotates down here, it's going to end up being a little bit of a consolidation. So just be prepared. I'm XRP Future Millionaire. Make sure to hit that like button. If you're looking to trade, make sure you look in the video description below and our pinned comments. I would join BITUNIX. For me, it's my favorite. It's got the lowest spot and leverage trading fees, no KYC or VPN, and it's very transparent. Fees are the lowest, and it's just a beautiful platform for me personally. I don't want to go anywhere else. And then if you're looking for a little more exposure to different things like Casper, VELO, and a few others, that's on HOTCOIN. You can leverage trade there as well. There's nothing wrong with it. A little more fees, not as transparent, and it might be a little more difficult. So I like the transparency of BITUNIX, so that's my A1. So that's where we're at. If you want to send me support, make sure to hit that like button. That's all I'm asking for. But you can always join Tom's Army or send a YouTube super chat. But all I'm asking for this morning is a like, because this could get very dicey here. So very, very carefully monitor your risk, ladies and gentlemen. This really could get dicey. If Bitcoin breaks down this attempted breakout here, which it's still very much on the top side, it rolled out. We have this consolidation that it's on the top side of. And the technical target right now, remember, of Bitcoin, assuming it doesn't break down, is about 5.65% to 95,785. That's the technical target right now on this, what looks like a possible breakout attempt here. That's why I still have optimism that XRP, XLM can still push up in these regions because because Bitcoin right now is showing a possible push up. But at the same time, I mean, you got to monitor your risk here. There's a lot of risk. If you wanted to take a trade on Bitcoin because you're like, I'm feeling dicey this morning and I want to take a leverage out, well, I think it's pretty simple. You could technically ride Bitcoin and then you could see if this pattern consolidates back down. But if you're going to ride this, I mean, you could do the minimal risk approach and say, well, if it busts this pattern and we go into the 4-hourly, if it busts not just this 4-hourly candle, you could say if it comes down below. See, that's the problem. If you ride this right now, you're going to have to ride it to exhaustion. And that would mean you'd probably have to ride it until it breaks either 90, I would say 89,000. If you're being conservative and you're like, well, if it breaks this candle formation, 90,500. But it's dicey. These are the spots where you have to have some cojones if you're going to go for it. Because it's technically showing a breakout of 4.5% to 5%, but these can be fake outs. So this is where you have to make an educated and informed decision. Be blessed, everybody.